Konigsberg. Thanks for being here.
Good to be here,
We're
man.
live.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
A lot to talk about.
Tons to talk about.
All right.
Tons to talk about.
Let's dive into it.
Yeah.
So, first of all, for those that don't know, Sam is on the board of Brawl for a Cause.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really cool adventure getting to that point, which we'll definitely dig into. But first of all, when people ask you, hey, who are you? What do you do? How do you answer them?
It's a good question, and I sometimes struggle to answer it. But no, I'm Sam Konigsberg from Atlanta. So my folks are from New York, so we moved down here when I was very young, 3 years old. Grew up in Alpharetta, went to University of Georgia. After college, moved away for a couple of years to pursue work in finance. Moved back to Atlanta in 2014. Got married a couple of years ago to a wonderful woman. Definitely outkicked my coverage. And, I'm here just loving being in Atlanta, loving building a network. My family is still here. My wife's family's in Birmingham, so Atlanta's going to be home for the next 70 or so years, and we're making it count, man. So trying to put a little dent in the universe.
There we go.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, growing up, you're just north of town, and you say it's going to be home for the next 70 years. Why is Atlanta home?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta home is home because that's where family is. Family's a huge, important part of me. It's a big part of my growing up. It's a big part of my wife's upbringing as well. I've got 2 younger brothers. They're based in here in Atlanta. My folks are still here. I also love the city. This city is growing. There's so much going on, both socially good that's happening here. From a business standpoint, our economy is very diverse here in Atlanta, very vibrant from a sector standpoint, from a people standpoint. So I think it's got great long-term trajectory. And then it's got big city amenities at, kind of mid-city prices. And it's just a great place with great people. So I'm a huge, huge fan of Atlanta.
Man, the Chamber of Commerce needs to get you on a commercial.
I was going to say, I'll listen all day. Call me. Yeah.
Cool. So what's the day job? What do you do to make a paycheck?
Yeah. So my day job is I work at a company called BlackRock. BlackRock is the largest asset manager in the world. Right now, we run about $6.2 to $6.3 trillion. So just huge pools of money. We run this for all the way from pensions, endowments, foundations, sovereign wealth funds, big pools of money, all the way down to $50 investments for individuals. So we are the group that creates investments for people to invest in. My job in particular is an investment consultant. So I work with a lot of the decision makers that are making investments decisions for these bigger pools of money. I help them understand the markets. I help them understand these different investments. I talk on behalf of BlackRock, so sharing our views on the market, our views on the investment world, and then help them come together with their client needs, what they expect out of the market, and help them come to an investable place where they can be confident in what they're doing for their clients. What I like about our corporate structure is we're a fiduciary, meaning by definition we have to do what's in the best interest of our client. We also don't own a stock or a bond, right, our firm. So we purely manage money on behalf of our shareholders. So there's no inside account, there's no trading on the other side of your client, there's no conflicts of interest. We are specifically working for our clients, and so that makes me feel great. Just having grown up and spent a lot of time focused on taking the interest, I should say, in personal finance, understanding how important finance is to people's lives, not how many commas do you have in your bank account. It's more so not having that stress and having financial confidence is a big deal, and it just allows people to live better lives and be focused and present and not stressed and take care of their loved ones and take care of themselves and do important life events. And so I love being able to give people empower people to do that for themselves, and I just really enjoy it.
Well, you've done that for me, and when I was starting out, kind of dipping my toe in the water of this finance world, I was super uncomfortable. I didn't have a great relationship with money. I didn't really know, what was going to happen if I logged on to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and put money into a stock or something. So you really helped me just shine a light on this world and understand it a little bit better. And maybe you can help some people listening do that too. So when you say you're a financial or an investment consultant, is that like, hey, you pick stocks for people? Or is there more to it?
Yeah, so there's a couple, and I won't go fully, I guess, into, I don't want to bore people with details, but there are financial advisors, and financial advisors are people that sit, they're investment professionals that sit down with everyday people, and they are the certified financial planners of the world. They are the CPAs of the world. They're sitting down with business owners and individuals and saying, I'm going to help you with your personal finances. I'm going to help you plan for retirement. I'm going to help you save for your college education, your child's college education. We're going to help you save for these life events.
So some of the people that we know, like Tim Smith, Matt Cesare at Northwestern Mutual, these people are the financial advisors that you're talking about, that are client-facing, help you understand retirement and benefits and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
They can translate maybe some of the really complicated, complex knowledge that you know into something that someone like me can understand.
Exactly. So their job is to build relationships with individuals, understand them and their financial needs, and then help them make those decisions. So setting clear and objective goals and helping build the financial plan to have that happen. My job is to work with those financial professionals. So I actually don't do client-facing end client. So I wouldn't sit down with that family member or that small business owner, or I would sit down with the small business owner's 401k, or I would sit down with the financial professionals, or I would sit down with the home office at so-and-so firm. So that's more my job. They're going to take that information, synthesize it in a way that they can deliver to their clients, and then that's what they do. So the only thing I do not like about my job is I don't get to sit down with individuals. Now I do seminars and I can explain, some more complicated kind of big market issues, but on a day-to-day basis, I don't get to sit down with the individual and say, I'm going to take care of you. I have to do that through their financial advisor. So I get to touch a lot of people through those financial advisors, which is really satisfying. And I have got a lot of big clients in Atlanta that run a lot of wealth for families here, so I get to give and have impact here. But I do that through those financial intermediaries.
Makes sense. Okay, and so how long have you been at BlackRock?
Been there almost 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is that right out of college?
So no. So I graduated at the time, probably the worst time to graduate since like 1929. So I graduated in December of 2008.
Okay.
So Lehman collapses in September, October of 2008. The market is in free fall. I'm at the University of Georgia. I'm in the Terry School of Business, finance major. All of us are, basically sitting around the table, all getting a phone call saying, hey, remember that offer you got over this summer? Well, it's gone. In fact, the firm's gone. Like, don't come, right? So we all got that phone call. We're sitting, at graduation, and no one's got a job in finance. So at the time, it was really tough to do that. So I had wrestled club at Georgia with a buddy of mine, and he had graduated a semester early and said, listen, if you want, there's a job here in Atlanta selling power tools to construction sites and Home Depots. And I was like, the only sector that's worse than finance is like real estate, right? And construction. So absolutely not. He goes, well, you can grow a beard and drive an F-150 for free. And I said, I'm in. Like, that was it, right? And at the time, that was really all there was. I mean, there wasn't anything else. I was able to live at home and save money too. And that was the big thing, was I went to college, took on some student loans, and said, I don't really understand finance. And that's one of my big passions. When I leave BlackRock and when I retire and whenever that is, and even throughout this process of being at BlackRock, financial education is so important to me. And I'm going to make sure that financial education is in every single high school. I'd love it all the way through, all grades. There's an awesome book called The Richest Man in Babylon that's constantly referenced by some of the smartest and wealthiest people. And it basically says the wealth of a nation is just the sum total of the financial health of its individuals. So the more that we understand and hold ourselves accountable, and the wealthier we are as a nation, the better shape our country will be in financially. and we can tell where our national education is around finance based on the amount of debt that we have, in our country at the federal level, which is horrendous. So I'm a huge advocate for that. So moved back in with my folks, saved a bunch of money.
Growing a beard, selling power.
Trying to sell
that?
beard.
You
Listen, that thing was the ugliest excuse for a beard. It was like absolutely horrendous. So, but I got to drive an F-150. I was making no money barely, but I was living at home, saving money. The market starts turning. So I worked there for 10 months. Market starts turning in the fall of 2009. So the bottom of the market was basically February, March of 2009. That was the very bottom. The market starts to turn. That's when the federal government stepped in and started doing this thing called the Troubled Asset Relief Program, where they were buying stocks and bonds openly in the market. They were pumping a bunch of liquidity. They were pumping a bunch of borrowing power. They were relieving a lot of these banks and corporations from not being able to borrow from one another, not being able to hire and things like that. They got involved. The market starts to turn in fall of 2009. I'm saying, hey, now's my chance to get into finance. In hindsight, it was a great time because every company that was not built solidly, right? When times are good, anybody can make money, especially in a high margin business. When times turn, Warren Buffett says, when the tide goes out, you see who's naked, right? That's what happened. So at that point, me getting in, there had been a huge reset of the industry where only the strongest companies remained, and really the strongest employees at those strong companies remained. So when I was banging on the door saying I want to work in finance, it was, I will get coffee, I will sweep the floors, I will first one in, last one out, whatever you need, print and copy and fax, just get me in the door. So
let's back up. You graduate in December. You said, bottom of the market, all these offers get revoked. Do you have an offer from BlackRock or another financial institution that was revoked?
Yeah. So I was going to go into, not from BlackRock, but I was going to go into the financial sector. I was going to be an analyst with a company that's no longer around.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that didn't happen. So I just said.
So you had no one to reach back out to and be like, hey, market's getting better. Can I get that offer back?
No.
You're starting to square one.
No, I'm starting to square one.
Okay.
And that was tough. So, and that was the other thing too is if you don't know anyone in the financial services industry, it's kind of hard to get in because it's not really something that you learn about in school. You don't say, I want to grow up one day and be in the financial advisory services or whatever, right? It's not a fireman or cop or whatever. So that was difficult. So not having an in to that. So my mom's a school teacher. My dad worked in retail for years and now is a school teacher also. So, they gave me great advice, work hard, do the right thing. But beyond that, specifically to, a sector or anything, it was just work hard, do the right thing, and figure it out.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate enough, my cousin was working at a kind of a smaller tier firm up in Boston. And I called him up and I said, hey, Corey, if you could help me out, man, we'd love to, if there's if there's anything, please let me know. So I get a phone call. He said, hey, we're hiring for the bottom of the rung. Are you interested? I said, absolutely. He puts me on the phone with the hiring manager. And the guy basically laughs at me. He's like, well, you're in Atlanta. What are you doing? I'm not going to hire you. And I said, well, if I'm in your office tomorrow morning by 9:30, will you give me 5 minutes?
Wow.
And he said, if you're in my office by 9:30 tomorrow morning, I'll give you 5 minutes. So I call my buddy who works at Delta here in Atlanta, and I said, do you have a buddy pass?
Yeah.
Help me get up there. I don't, I'm still saving money at this point, trying to pay off student loans, help me out. I fly up there, I sleep on my cousin's floor. I get an interview, and I got the job about 2 or 3 weeks later. Flew back home, packed up my mom's minivan, took out the back seat, the whole thing, packed what little I had into that minivan, drove it up to Boston.
You had to give up the truck.
The truck.
Oh,
I had to turn in the F-150 for a minivan, which was not the best. But drove it up to Boston, then drove that back home, flew up to Boston, and I lived in Boston for about a year, without a car. But it was a great experience. That was November 2nd, 2009 was my start date with this new firm, Columbia Management. So yeah, that's how I got in. to the business.
How long were you at Columbia?
I was at Columbia for 3 months.
Okay.
I was at Columbia for 3 months.
Pretty quick turnaround. Was that the launch pad for BlackRock?
It wasn't. I got fired.
Wow.
I got fired.
Sam Konigsberg got fired.
I got fired. So
what happened?
there are 2 tests that you have to pass to get into the industry.
Okay.
The first one is a deep financial, in my mind, more of applicable test. It's the big test. It's called the Series 7.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you have the Series 66, which is about a third of the size, if not less, but it's all having to do with business law. And hey, if you're a financial advisor, which I was not applying for, but if you're a financial advisor in state A and you have a client in state B, but they're on vacation in state C for 3 weeks, can you talk to them about finances? It's those kind of things, which was not applicable to me. And I've got a really bad habit of going 110% the things that I care about and really peeling back from things that I don't. So I took the 7 and I smoked it. All right, I had a super high score on the 7, did not take the 66 seriously at all. Said, I'll just walk through this thing. Failed it by 2 points.
Oof.
And I show up to work and they said, go get your stuff. You've got 15 minutes. Because what ends up happening is you take that test in the morning, which is about a 4 or 5 hour test. You go back to the office. They already know if you've passed, failed.
Wow.
Yep, because it's an immediate, it's the longest 30 seconds of your life when that computer's calculating that score. So I show up at the office and they said, here's your check, here's your box, you got 15 minutes, get out. And that's how this works.
So there is no retake.
There's
leniency.
So each firm is different,
Okay.
but a lot of firms say, listen, you're going to pass these tests or you're not going to work here. And you're going to pass them on the first time and that's it.
Wow.
So that was a really, really interesting time.
It's a wake-up call.
Wake-up call,
Boom.
yeah. You go back to, I was living in Boston. I was living in just north of Boston near Sullivan Square and Davis Square. And I was in an apartment that was $500 a month. It was me and one other guy, $500 a month each, which even in 2009, I mean, that was about as cheap and as bad of an apartment as you could possibly live in. So, you go back home and you're like, I've got X amount in the bank, and thank God I was able to live at home. All my friends made fun of me. Hey, why don't you get an apartment? You got a job. Why don't you get an apartment in this, in Atlanta? I was like, I gotta really set my little self up here. I had a little bit of money in the bank. As I looked at that, I was like, all right, I've got 3 months to make it happen in Boston, and I am not going home with my tail between my legs. I came up here to get this thing done. I had a lot of people ask me, what are you doing? Who do you know? I had one friend, which was my cousin. And I just said, I'm going to make this happen. This is what I want to do. This is what I have to do. If you want to do finance, you really got to start in either like Boston, New York, London, San Fran. There's very few places that you can do this. And so I just said, my full-time job is going to be finding a job. Put on a suit the next morning and just started literally going around town, going around Boston and saying, I will work my butt off for you. I was able to retake that test 30 days later, passed it.
Okay.
But
Did you call Columbia again?
No.
Like, hey, I passed it?
No. And that was the thing was I was a little bit, I wanted to do it on my own. I didn't want to go back. I thought they were a great shop, good company, but I didn't want to go back. I wanted to do it on my own, and so I got a job at Bank of New York Mellon.
Okay.
I worked there for about 10 months as an analyst. So Excel sheet monkey, looking through different investments, working with some of the financial advisors on site, and then I transitioned to BlackRock, and that was a crazy thing too.
Yeah. Did they seek you out, or were you were you looking? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was set on being in Boston. I was not necessarily happy at Bank of New York Mellon because I was just an analyst, and I love you know me. I love the numbers. I love digging in, but I love to client face. I love to teach. I love to interact. I love to be around it. And this was not that. This was a back room, and so I was so broke in Boston that I learned the activities that were free in the city, one of which was running. I was not a runner really up until I got to Boston. And Boston's a beautiful city, very runnable. It's actually much smaller than most folks think. It's tiny compared to a New York City or even in Atlanta, very small. And so I learned to run in Boston. Well, I'm running one day, and I see this American flag wrapped around a telephone pole, like barely hanging off the ground. I'm like, this is ridiculous, literally. I pick this thing up, I run it home. I hang it in my wall on my apartment. It's just the flag draped down. I clean it off. And it was the only thing I had on my wall. It was just a white wall otherwise. And so a couple months go by, and I am interviewing for a promotion within Bank of New York Mellon. And the guy who's sitting across from me says, well, you know, you're licensed. You've been doing a great, job here. I think you're overqualified for the promotion that you're interviewing for. And I've got a buddy at BlackRock. So I'm like, time out. I'm interviewing for a promotion because I did a relatively good job here. You're saying that I'm overqualified for the promotional role I'm going for, and you're recommending me outside the firm. What is going on?
Yeah.
Okay, doesn't make any sense. So I get on the phone. I said, well, let me look up BlackRock because I had never heard of them, right? And kind of BlackRock would rather keep it that way, right? We're a pretty quiet company in the back. I look them up and I'm like, there's no way they're going to hire a state school kid. Like, these are all, Ivy League kids, and they're all these other, right? They're not going to hire me. Mm-hmm. So I get on the phone with this guy. His name is Mike Wade. He was at BlackRock. And he and I talk, and we get a good rapport. And he's like, all right, you seem like a nice guy. Let's do a Skype interview with all the bosses, right? So again, not thinking that I'm going to get this, or just trying to set my expectations. I said, what do I have to lose? I take the Skype interview from my house, but I said, they're never going to remember me if it's a white wall. I'm going to do the interview and have the American flag right in the back. So it's literally me, the American flag. So
that was your prep. That was your strategy.
My strategy was, at least I'm memorable, right? They're not going to say, who was that guy again? Yeah, he's that. You're right. So we pop up the Skype interview, and the first question is, son, is that the American flag, as your backdrop? And I said, absolutely. And that was it. And that was like
you're hired.
I mean, it was they asked me all these questions, and they go, hey, do you know about this about our industry? Do you know this? Do you know this? And my answer was no. Uh-huh. I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that. I don't know that. They said, you sound pretty coachable. Why don't you come in? We'll talk to you. Okay. I take the train. I take the Feng Hua bus from Chinatown in Boston to Chinatown in New York. Take the train down to Princeton, New Jersey, which is where the job was. Sit down in front of them. I talk to them, and basically it's the same thing. I don't know anything, but I will work my butt off to be the best employee that you absolutely have. And for whatever reason, they took a chance on me. And I moved right next to the office. I was first one in, last one out for 5 years. And I moved really quickly through the ranks. And then in 2014, and that was great too, I ran the mentorship program. I started and ran the mentorship program at BlackRock, which was awesome. We didn't have one at the time in the U.S. Wealth Advisory Group, which I work in. Met some amazing people, some lifelong friends. Had some great experiences, grew personally and professionally, was working in Princeton, New York City, back and forth. And in summer of 14, I got a promotion to move back to Atlanta.
Okay.
It was the third job I had interviewed for to be an outward client-facing consultant. I had not gotten the first three. I was so young. The average person who's doing my job is much older. So at the time, even being 27, 28, they were like, there's no way we're going to send you out there. That was always the thing. I was the last man standing internally and lost out to an external candidate 3 times. The fourth time I interviewed was for the Atlanta job, and it was for this newer business that BlackRock had acquired a couple years ago called iShares. Okay. At the time, we were kind of like, what is that? It was BlackRock had acquired iShares in 2009. We had integrated firms in 12 or 13. It's 14 now. We didn't know too much about that thing. Now, in hindsight, I was not this smart. But ETFs and iShares brand is totally revolutionizing the industry. It's a total disruptive technology in finance. It's better for the client. It's better for basically everybody involved. And I'm sitting right in the middle of it right now. And I made that transition 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, moved to Atlanta, took that consulting job based in the Southeast, and now I cover clients from Atlanta, Charlotte, the Carolinas. So I've been doing that. But I've worked up and down the East Coast, had clients everywhere. It's been an awesome experience, but it was a haul to get here, man.
So that's where you are now.
Yeah.
Let's go back to New Jersey for a second.
Yeah.
Because some cool stuff happened there, I
Yes.
bet. While you're sharpening your teeth. Did you bring your running hobby from Boston to Jersey with you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And outside of the office, we've been mostly talking about work here, but did you, and you were first one in, last one out, so I'm sure it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
But what did you do when you weren't in the office?
Yeah, I mean, socially, it was amazing just being up in the Northeast.
Mm-hmm.
Be young and single and up in the Northeast was amazing. To be 45 minutes from the beach, to be 2 hours from skiing. I'd never skied. To be an hour from New York City and 45 minutes from Philly. You know, you got to explore this whole new part of the country that I just had not had a lot of exposure to. The cool part about BlackRock at that point was everybody was from somewhere else. So we all became friends really quickly because everybody has very similar personalities. Everybody's working hard, everybody's got high character, and no one knows anyone else, so you immediately become friends. But I learned to love to run, and
you ever do races or anything?
Yeah, so I got so everybody there is a little bit extreme at some point. It's a high stress job, so we've got ways of coping with things. I had a buddy of mine say, "Hey Sam, I want to do a couple group of us are going to do this race." He said, "Tell me about this race." Well, it's a 24-hour race. He said, "Okay, like a relay race." It's like, "No, like 24 hours, everybody racing together." I said, "Well, are you running from one state to the other? Like, what is this?" He said, "It's an obstacle course race." What I was signing up for, not knowing this was the world's toughest mudder. So they do this once a year.
So I've heard of Tough Mudder. What's the difference? You know,
so Tough Mudder's usually 5, 10, 12 miles max.
Okay.
This is the same concept. It's a 5-mile loop, okay, with obstacles every quarter mile. So you've got 20 obstacles, both wet and dry.
Okay.
And it's how many times can you run this 5-mile loop in 24 hours?
Wow. Okay.
So you're literally up and running and moving for 24 hours through this obstacle course. So I did it 2 years. The first year I did it was in this group, and what's really cool about their concept is if you can do it as an individual or as a team. If you do it as a team, it's a team of 4. And if you do it as a team of 4, you all have to cross the mile markers within 30 seconds of one another. So you can't have, be spread out and somebody resting or whatever. You have to move as a unit. You can only move as fast as your slowest member throughout the entire 24 hours. And sometimes you're that member, right? Because your body is going through these crazy swings racing for 24 hours. So the communication required, the checking in, the how's your body, the whole thing. So the first year we did it in New Jersey, we ended up going 45 miles. We ended up stopping about 16 hours in. We had a couple guys on the team get hypothermia, but it was because it's in November. In Jersey,
yeah.
And in a wetsuit with 5 or 6 wet obstacles. So it's really difficult. It's really physically difficult. But that was a really tough moment for me because I had trained a long time. I could have kept going because if a group breaks down, everybody then becomes an individual racer. I could have kept going and I didn't. And I was really frustrated with myself. And it's mentally very difficult to do this. And even being on the course for 16 hours is nice, but I had signed up for 24. So the very next year we all got back together. We had done our training, and this is hours, training hours a week on running and pull-ups and push-ups, sit-ups, and all this different stuff. The next year was in Lake Las Vegas, so about 30 minutes outside of Las Vegas. We ended up finishing the entire 24 hours. I shouldn't say that. The 2 members who had fallen out the year before, instead of falling out at hour 16, fell out at hour 20. Hypothermia as well. But we got them to the med tent, and I said, I'm finishing. So me and the other guy, we finished the laps. We did 60 miles in 24 hours.
Wow.
The course was really difficult. It was built into the side of a mountain, so it was up a mountain, and you're doing obstacles and down and then over and around. So it was pretty physically intense. But Definitely something I've drawn on. When you've done 60 miles of like really harsh and intense training and activity like that, there's not a lot of things that you can make physical excuses for, right? Whenever I'm tired, I can't say, well, I'm more tired now than I was at hour 23. That's never going to be the case.
Right.
And we had a 12-hour sandstorm right in the middle of the race too. I mean, it was just these insane kind of elements. So that was a big deal. I poured a lot of time and energy and effort into that.
Let's dig into that kind of mindset, because that's something that we scratch the surface of with Brawl for a Cause too.
Yeah.
And it's something that I believe in personally. Similar experiences in my life, drawing on them when things get hard. Hey, I've done something harder. What do you think in your life has been the importance of that? You talk about maybe fatigue. You talk about things that are unexpected that come up, like this sandstorm.
Yeah.
How has that translated to your life? Why is it so key? And maybe talk about why you decided to not stop at hour 20 and do those last 4.
Yeah. So I'm a huge believer in everything affects everything else. The way that you do something very small or something meaningless is the way that you're going to do everything. And the higher that you get up in, whether it's sports, whether it's business, the higher you get up, the more of a mental game it is, the more of the mental toughness required. I wrestled through middle school, high school, and before those big matches, it was all mental. The matches were won or lost before they even started. If you weren't in it mentally, you had zero shot. And so it was the same thing with that race. Was my body could do this. I was hurting from my heads to my toes, like hurting my entire body. But I said, I have to do this for me. I can't come here and not finish this thing. I have to do this. And we started with 1,200 people started that race. And when you start the race, everybody looks like they're off the set at 300. They're ripped. They're in great shape. They've got face paint on. They're like ready to go.
I've been training for this. They have the same thing in their mind. I'm
finishing this thing. And what you realize is 10% of the applicants finish from start to finish. There's only 10% of us that are going to actually finish this race, right? There's a lot of folks that are going to start, they're going to stop and get back on the course, or they're going to start and stop. So to be able to go all the way through, it's really packed in the beginning of the race, but by the end of the race, it's just you. And you're literally in the dark, in the desert. And so you've got a lot of time to think about what's going on. And you've got to wrestle with all those demons of doubt that say you can't do this, or this is too hard, or here are 15 reasons why you should quit. Sam, you're in finance. Sam, you have no bid. You don't have to prove anything. You don't have to. What are you doing? This is silly. This is stupid. This is whatever. Your feet are. You lost a couple toenails already. What's going on? And you just have to say, listen, I came here to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. And that has, without a shadow of a doubt, has permeated 100% of my life, personally and professionally. I draw on that all the time.
So you bring up that inner voice. Rogan calls it the inner bitch. When it bubbles up, it's trying to talk you out of doing something hard.
Yes, that's what it is.
How do you interact with that? You said a little bit like, hey, I'm doing this. Is it that simple, though? Because it keeps coming up. Do you just keep saying the same thing? Or are you attacking it from different angles? What do you say to yourself?
Yeah. So I think in order to answer the bell when it's game time, when you're at that moment of that inner voice is coming up telling you can't, you're having, in my experience, I've drawn on all that training leading up. So it's not like you get there and this is the first time you're hearing this voice. From the first workout, when you're at 65 push-ups and you said you were going to get to 70, right? When you're doing those pull-ups and you say 2 more and your body's telling you to stop. When you say I'm going to run 7 7-minute miles, which was my thing, and you get back and it was 7:15, right? Or you're coming around the corner finishing a run, and I always finish my runs with a kick, with a sprint. and you don't give it your very best, or you do, those are the moments that you're earning it along the way. Those are those little things, that last push-up, that last pull-up, that last sprint of everything you have puts little deposits in the bank. Little deposits every single time. And I was a wrestling coach, and the kids would say, how do you build mental toughness? And I would tell them, you don't build it, you earn it.
Yeah.
You have to know that you put the work in. And you can tell everybody you did, and you can post pictures about you did, and you can do all this stuff. But before you get on that mat with someone else, the only person that's going to know that is you. And you're either going to step up and lean into that, or you're going to crack. And so it's all those deposits along the way, and that lead to when you need to draw from that bank account. In that moment, it's there. And there's no doubt in your mind that you've put in the work. And then it's telling yourself you've put in the work. You deserve to be here. You're strong enough to do this. You can do this, right? And so that's what this is. But it's not some magic mantra. It's literally the boring, doing the little things right along the way to get you to that moment, to be ready to face that dragon and slay it when it comes.
So you focus on preparation and on positivity and self-talk. I can do this because I've earned it. I've done these mental reps. I've done these physical reps. My body can do this. My mind can do this. I'm going forward. Is there anything that seeps in negatively? And I don't mean like, that inner bitch coming up and telling you that you can't. I mean like when you take that 66 and you didn't give it everything you got and you fail by 2 points, does that stuff come up? Are there demons that present themselves in those hard moments where you're like, I'm not going to let that happen again?
Yeah. So my junior year in high school, I won a state title, wrestling. My senior year, I was wrestling at a lower weight class, and the team needed me to go up 2 weight classes my senior year, right before regional tournament, which is unheard of. You always go down a weight class or stay. I went from 145 to 160, which is 2 weight classes in Georgia back then. I blew through the regional tournament. I blew through the state tournament, and I got to the state finals. And I lost by a point in the state finals my senior year, 3-2, to a guy who I had beat the week before at Regions. He was a great wrestler, and I was giving up probably 15 pounds at least. But that doesn't matter. That negative stigma, that voice says, well, you can't close, you can't finish, you can get all the way there, but you can't make this thing happen. And that voice has to be dealt with, because for at least a couple of years, that was the voice in my head. And that popped back up when I failed the 66. Oh, well, you got the 7, but you didn't make it, right? You got to the 66, you failed by a couple points. You lost the state title by a point. So those...
And then the first world's toughest.
16
hours.
You did good. You did 45 miles, but you didn't finish. And so that voice, it will always be there to remind me that I can't or I didn't. The deposits in the bank and the positive self-talk have to be stronger than that voice to overcome that. Have to be, right? And without that, it's very difficult. But I've learned from those failures to say, what was it? It's not anything external. What was it that I could have done in my training to make this thing happen? And if the answer is nothing, I did my very, very best and I lost, I'm okay with that. If the answer is there's something else I could have done, there's better preparation I could have put in and I didn't, that's on me. And so what I don't want to do is just repeat those mistakes. So going from the first Tough Mudder to the second Tough Mudder, I changed my training. I said, it's not about running 7 7-minute miles. It's not. It's about running like 15 10-minute miles, because this is a long game. There is no sprinting up a mountain. There is no, my feet were so swollen the first year, I could barely walk for like 2 weeks because I just had not been on them. I had been on, them for 50 minutes at a time. I said, I got to change my training. And so making that adjustment, and then finishing and saying, I've been here before, I can do this. But there's definitely that negative self-talk that says you can't close. And that will come up in a presentation, right? I'm presenting to some very powerful, influential financial people. Can you go up there and close? You know this stuff. Can you close? Can you deliver this with confidence? And the answer has to be yes, because my training's been good, and I'm meant to be here. And that's probably the biggest switch that was flipped, was knowing that you deserve to be there, right? It's not acting as if, it's not fake it till you make it. It's no, I belong here. I belong here. I've put the work in. And that's a big moment.
It's interesting you bring up fake it till you make it, especially in entrepreneurship. It is such a consistent piece of advice that people spew out. Yeah. And I've always had an issue with it. Yeah. It's easy to talk the talk. Yeah. It's easy to look the part.
Yes.
But actually walking the walk and fighting the fight is a completely different game.
Absolutely.
So it might get you in the door to be in that boardroom where you're pitching to powerful people. It might get you to hour 16 or hour 20. But I don't think faking it till you make it actually makes you make it. No. I don't think it gets you to that finish line or to that closure.
No. And it also blocks off resources that you could be getting. Mm-hmm. If you ask me, Sam, how's it going in XYZ business? And I say, Matt, everything is fantastic. I'm awesome. I'm growing. Things are great. I have just totally blocked off a resource or an intro or something you can be doing. If I'm confident enough to be vulnerable and say, Matt, of the business, this business has 4 facets. One of them's running at 100%, one of them's running at 50, one of them's running at 70, one of them's running at 0. I need your help. That is going to be way more powerful. I'm inviting you in to help me. I'm enlisting the help of my network. I'm getting the help from my friends, and now you have ownership because I've got humility. Hey, I want this thing to work and it's not working. Or hey, I'm really good at these couple things, but I'm really terrible at this. Can you help me? Can you introduce me to someone? That is what you lose in the fake it till you make it. Yeah. And that's not sustainable. And now I've been in this business, in this industry 10 years, and it just doesn't last. You see those folks that got off to a fast start, or you just knew the foundation wasn't solid, and it just does not last. Just like any business, just like any relationship, anything, it has to be built on truth, or else it just won't stand the test of time. Yeah.
So, okay, we're back to your story.
Yeah.
We're in New Jersey.
Yeah.
You're getting these really important mental reps of not just in your career, learning all this stuff that you didn't know when you had the American flag behind you and you were doing the interview. You're actually getting that knowledge, building that foundation, able to carry yourself in a boardroom or a pitch. But also outside, you're applying that same kind of mindset and approach to other kinds of challenges, like the world's toughest mudder. Mm-hmm. So you're building yourself into this person, okay? And what I want to dig into is where does the vision for that person come from? Did you know you wanted to be a specific kind of business person, or someone that doesn't back down to challenges? Is this something from a young age that you're just like, this is who I am, and asserted yourself? Or did it kind of like bubble up over time where it's like, I'm sick of not winning state championships, I'm sick of not passing tests, and it like a flip switched? Was there, how did that come to be where you're like, I'm going to be this kind of Sam Konigsberg?
Yeah. So I think it started off just in childhood as my, I have 2 loving parents that are together and they love each other and they created an awesome environment, and that's the best gift I've ever gotten in my life. So if I do anything for the rest of my life, if it can be a good parent and be present, that is the best gift that I can give, not just my children, but also the world, right? So from a young age, it was be true to yourself, have an open mind, work very hard and be very honest, right? And so with that kind of mandate where you're respecting the principles, right, of honesty and hard work and truth and perseverance and grit, right, honoring those principles yet allowing those to take you wherever they go. I didn't grow up and say I want to be a, X. I want to be a guy in finance. I didn't say that. I just said I want to work. I want to honor these principles, and wherever my heart and my passion are taking me, that's where I'm going to allow this to move. So you're tethered. You've got these strong roots of these characteristics and principles, but you're flexible enough to say it doesn't have to be as a doctor at going to MIT and then going to Wharton, and then it's no. I'm going to honor these, and I'm going to allow this to go where it goes. And then what ends up happening is, and this is kind of where I think the magic happens, is it's really difficult to do that because you're paying a lot up front. It's not easy doing those things. It's not easy having difficult conversations with others and yourself. It's not easy acknowledging that, hey, I am not great at this. It's not easy. And there's very little fruit of that labor on the front end. But then what ends up happening is you start seeing the fruit of your labor and the value of your characteristics start paying dividends. So, hey, if I'm honest, I'm going to be surrounded by a bunch of honest people, right? I'm not going to be naturally drawn to folks who are dishonest, and they're not going to be drawn to me. So you start Jim Rohn, who's a mentor of mine. I've never met him. He's passed away, but he's this awesome speaker. If you have never heard of him, listen him up on YouTube. He's fantastic. But he says, success is not something you attain. Success is something you attract by becoming an attractive person. So I don't want to be anyone else. I just want to be the best version of myself. And anytime that I try to be anyone else, I'm not true to myself. It comes across as inauthentic. And I think the most powerful way to connect with someone is to be authentic. Is to be able to look them across the table and look into their eyes and say, this is who I am. And, I'm, and this is truth, right? And this is who I am also means, like, I have flaws. This is who I am. I have strengths. This is who I am, right? But acknowledging those, being very self-aware and working towards those. And then it brings you good things in life. And that's what I found is it's definitely not always easy, and it's a daily discipline because there's always that short-term, shortcut to get A to B quicker, but it never pays off, and it's not sustainable. So I would just say I had a great base from my parents. I then saw the fruits of those principles start paying off, and it started to attract amazing people into my life that were also on their own paths. But we saw similar characteristics and principles in one another, and that just further encourages everyone in that group, in that network, to continue to do and support and love one another and all that stuff. So that's where it's come from. Is I had great parents, I had some great coaches growing up, I've had some great mentors, I've had some great friends, and those have been, besides my parents, those have been attracted into my life. I was lucky enough to have the parents I have.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're 27, 28.
Yep.
You've gone for this promotion or this new job 3 times.
Yep.
And I'll say this may not be the case, but you're acting from the place of truth and becoming the successful version of yourself that attracts getting this position that is way out of your age range and experience level and all these things. So at the largest asset manager in the world, you have this huge opportunity to move back to your hometown, coming back basically a hero.
Feeling like it, yeah.
Feel it. And you are. Yeah. But you come back in 2014 and you've proven all this stuff to yourself. Now, what do you do when you have that? Are you content?
Yeah, I think it's addictive. Not in a I'm making these principles so I'm more successful financially or more successful in acquiring stuff or whatever. You start to fall in love with the person you are. And you start to really enjoy, and that's what I've done. I've just really enjoyed who I've become and who I'm becoming. And that is very attractive. So it's not tied to BlackRock. It's not tied to anything else. It's tied to, if it was just me in a room, or even more practical, every single night when I go to bed, and you've got that quiet time, whether it's 30 seconds or it's 30 minutes, that's what counts. That's what counts. That is, when I look in the mirror in the morning, am I happy with what I see, right? And there's always room for improvement, but am I directionally correct? Am I working towards that?
That mirror has nothing to do with that good haircut. Yeah, I mean, it's everything to do with.
It's right. It's right into your soul. It's exactly. because here's the thing. We know the opposite is true. We know people that have so much in the way of this world of success, whether it's wealth, whether it's a beautiful girlfriend, boyfriend, spouse, whether it's title, that are miserable, right? Or that don't have the character, or who are the people that they don't want to be, that are not being true to themselves, right? If you're a CEO, but you were of this industrial company, but you were made to be a school teacher, you're not going to be happy, right? So I think that it's most important, given the short life that we have, to really be true. And that's what when I moved back in 2014, there was a lot of growing pains. There was a lot of, I'm taking on this role that's very challenging, and I've got to put a lot of time and effort and energy. And when you're at kind of the bleeding edge of yourself, when you are always outside of your comfort zone in so many areas of life, personally, professionally, it almost feels like you're constantly failing because you're constantly doing something new, you're constantly stretching. But when I would look back and say, now it's, summer of 15, summer of 16, I still feel like I'm failing, but man, compared to where I was a year ago, 2 years ago, wow.
Failing big.
Wow. There's no way I could have done that, 2 years ago. So, let me fail forward. Let me go for it. And if I lose because of, inexperience, or I lose because I put my best in and it didn't work out, but I've come so far, and that's what I've really enjoyed. And I love sharing my best self with people around me, because that makes my network better. And I love when they share it with me and I learn from them. And so, that's exciting. Yeah, that's exciting.
Okay. You brought up the summer of 15, which is when we met.
Yes.
And I'll tell that story real quick, and
Sure.
then we can pick up on brawl stuff. So there was one night that completely rocked my world, changed my life. Garrett Graveson, mutual friend of ours, reached out to me. He was like, "Hey, I'm going to this charity event. I have an extra ticket. Haven't seen you in a while. Like, come with me."
Yeah.
I said, "Okay." So I go. He brings another friend along named Matt Shanks. Meet him. Maybe our paths had crossed once before, but this was the first time I really talked to him, got to know him. Really good dude. We walk over to what's that piano bar? Park Bench in Buckhead, and they have a great piano player. This big silent auction. A bunch of interesting people are walking around, and I meet three other people that night in that room. One is Sarah Alshery, who now does our calls relations for the Brawl. One is Jessica Black, who's been co-host for the Brawl a couple times. The other one is you. Mm-hmm. And I remember Garrett introducing me to you and being like, "Oh, this is Sam." And Garrett and what he puts his value in. I don't think he even brought up BlackRock. He's just like, he has this cool watch company. Like, listen to him.
Yes.
Listen to the story.
Yes.
And we met briefly. And I told you about Brawl for Cause, and you're like, "I'd love to come to that." And you reached out after, and that year we had 4 tables at the event. One was for my family. The other 3 you used as a client event. Yeah. For I think, was it Merrill Lynch?
Yeah.
Yeah. So So, from the very get-go, meeting you at that event, it was just 0 to 100 of, getting involved with Brawl for a Cause and feeling this connection. And I'd love to dig into that in 2015. What was going through your head that night? Why'd you even go to Cocktails for Camp? Like, what brought you to that event?
I think it was the same good people, right? That I had gotten to know quickly and trust, and I think as you get to know yourself better, it's much easier to connect with someone or not very quickly. You really know who you are. It makes it much easier to do that. I had met Shanks, I had met Garrett, and Garrett was going, and I said, well, if Garrett's going and he and I've connected and he's a great guy, I'll go there too. I had met Sarah that night, met you that night. So I was there for them, and then of course it was cool because it was a charity thing, and I just think charity things are fantastic. If you can have a good time and you can with a great outcome benefit cause, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than that. So I try to go to as many of those things as I possibly can, because you're finding other great people there too, and that's generally a great crowd to be a part of. So that's why I was there. Yeah.
100%. Okay, and walk me through the first brawl. What was your experience?
Yeah, so walk in. This was it wasn't Intercontinental. It was
Grand Hyatt.
Grand Hyatt in Buckhead. I had said, I like combat. I like boxing. This is black tie, and this is a nice hotel. So the ingredients are good. This looks fun. Let's do it. So I called up some clients and said, hey, let's go check this thing out. At the worst, we're going to be in Buckhead and we will be in tuxes and we go out afterwards because it's not good. At best, we're sitting ringside for this fun event that's raising money for these good causes. And that's an easy sell. Put a tux on, enjoy a few drinks, sit ringside for a good cause. Yes. So we showed up. We got there, we're in this big ballroom, and we see folks in the ring, and you quickly notice these are not professional fighters, right? These are people who were out there doing this because they love it, because they believe in what they're fighting for. That passion pulls you, right? It doesn't matter who you are. That thing pulls you, and their stories are incredible. So you're getting this great content, these great stories. You're learning about all these great causes, right? There's so many things going on in our city that we don't know about, good and bad. So just raising your level of awareness to that. And at the end of the night, we had a great time. And I said, I'm going to keep coming to this as a client event for as long as it happens. And then the next day, my clients are raving about it. Hey, this was awesome. Hey, thanks for bringing us. Hey, that's different. This is not the steak dinner at so-and-so restaurant in Buckhead. This is something different. Thank you for doing this. So it was a hit all the way around.
When you were sitting ringside and you were seeing these everyday people fight for what they believe in, did you ever think to yourself, I could see myself in there? Or was that something that...
Yeah, I thought the opposite. I thought the exact opposite.
Okay.
I was like, this is great. I'm glad they're doing this. I'm going to learn about their campaigns, but I am not going to fight, right? I had wrestled before. I had done some jiu-jitsu in college and mixed martial arts, and I enjoyed it. But, again, knowing like if I'm going to do something, it's going to be 110%. I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. I was traveling 7 states at that time. I was covering Miami, Atlanta, Charlotte, Chicago. Like I didn't have the time to do that. I wasn't currently, I've been charitable towards our church. We've got a Buckhead church, but there wasn't a cause locally that I was really connected with. So it just didn't make sense. And I said, it's a great client event, and I'm just going to keep doing that. I had no plans to be in the ring.
Okay. And let's fast forward a few months, because that started to change.
Yeah.
The idea entered your head somehow. And
yeah.
So what happened?
So I was hosting some clients at a golf tournament. Mm-hmm. The golf tournament was a charity golf tournament to benefit Bright Futures. Bright Futures is the charter school within City of Refuge. City of Refuge is in the west side of Atlanta. It's basically in the heart of one of our worst neighborhoods in the city as far as crime and unemployment and education and all that thing. So my folks being school teachers, we're doing this fundraiser for a charity. That's a fantastic thing. And it was also one of those moments where it was at Country Club of the South in Alpharetta. I was the lifeguard in high school at Country Club of the South. And I said, one day, I will play golf here. One day. So it was one of those things where it was one of those, wow, like I'm here, I've made it, right?
Full circle.
It's a full circle. You check the box, like, wow. And so we go there. They're introducing their graduating senior class of Bright Futures. And, the announcement is, hey, these are 26 seniors, 25 are going to college, one's going to trade school. And you're like, wow, right? Out of that neighborhood, look at these kids, they're incredible. I go up and I meet them, start talking to them, shake your hand, look you in the eye, very articulate, motivated, focused, have clarity. And you're like, this is too good. I've got to go see this facility. Mm-hmm. So they have this thing called Night of Giving, where you go down, you walk through the classrooms, you meet the teachers, you meet the students, you see what's going on, you hear the talks, you get vision clarified, and then you donate. So my wife, Kate Konigsberg, who's phenomenal. She and I go down there, and I guess we were dating at the time. We go down there, we're inspired.
Like early days.
Early days dating. Such a champion. Well, early days dating, we go down there. I said, I'm really inspired, let's do this. And she's super supportive. She's like, yes, let's do this. So we donate. But then we were like, wow, there's 2 huge warehouses. What's going on in the rest of these warehouses? So at the City of Refuge, they've got soup kitchens, they've got a halfway house, they've got job training, they've got all this stuff. Well, they also have this unit for human trafficking. So I said, I want to schedule to come back here and see this whole thing. So I go back there a couple weeks later, and I'm taking the tour, and the gal's giving me the tour, and she said, yeah, this is where we house the women and children that are trafficked. And I said, trafficked? Like, what do you mean trafficked? She's like, sexually trafficked, like forced prostitution. And I said, that's absolutely terrible. Where are they from? Like, are they brought here from like Mexico? Or are they brought here from overseas? Are they like undocumented? How are they trafficked? And she looks at me and she's like, Sam, these are Americans and these are Atlantans. And like in that moment, my mind is blown. I have no idea that this is actually happening. So I start asking these questions. She says, yeah, actually Atlanta, based on the airport, based on the train, based on I-20, based on all the events that we have here, is a huge hub for human trafficking. And it was in my mind, it was a shot across the bow. It was, you grew up in Alpharetta, you went to University of Georgia. At the time now you live in Buckhead, which is 7.1 miles, my apartment, 7.1 miles from my apartment to City Refuge. And you don't know that people are being trafficked. And so I said, if a kid who grew up here and is relatively involved in the community doesn't know about this, how many other people don't know about this? Mm-hmm. This is not something that's happening in a third world country. This is happening in our city here. So we walk the facilities, and I see that these people, that City of Refuge clearly cares about these folks. It's not we get you off the street, you're here for 30 days, we send you back out. It's a 2-year recovery, mentally, physically, spiritually, vocationally. They do job training, the whole thing. And they're not staying in like bunks or barracks. They have beautiful rooms that look like something you and I would stay in. I mean, beautiful. So you go there, you stay, you feel at home, you're surrounded by people that have been in that journey and recovered, people that have been in that journey and still in it, and then just a bunch of people around you that are loving you. It's this amazing environment they create. So we're getting towards the end of the tour, and all of a sudden she gets this phone call, and she picks up the phone. You can tell someone's frantic on the other side of the phone. She hangs up the phone. She says, "I'm sorry, Sam, the tour's over. We just got a call from a girl we've been trying to get in contact with. We've got 5 minutes to pick her up before her pimp gets her." And I was like, "Wait a sec, her pimp? What do you mean her pimp gets her? Sam, we have 5 minutes to go get her before we may not see her again. She's clearly run away, and she's got very limited time. Yeah, and that's it." Mm-hmm. So it's this moment in your life where you're like, it's just this alternate reality that you just don't know exists that's hitting you all at the same time. And that those kind of moments change who you are. They change you, because once you learn about those things, you can't unlearn it. You can't say, well, I don't remember that time I was taking this tour and this woman got a call about her pimp getting... you can't unlearn that.
It'd be a very convenient thing to unknow. That's a lot of evil in this world that you don't necessarily want bouncing around in your head. So in that moment, now the veil is pulled. You're seeing this reality.
And that goes back to, am I going to live in truth or am I not? Because if I live in truth, I can't ignore that. I can't just say I didn't see that and go on with my day. If you're not living in truth, then you can literally put it to the side, and that's okay, and that happens to other people. But at that moment, you're like, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. So I start researching and reading and doing all these things, and find out that the average person who's getting trafficked is getting trafficked 6 times a week, 6 days a week, 10 times a day. 10 times a day is being trafficked in our city. I cannot imagine, if anybody's listening, watching, pause for a second, think about what that means. You're being forced sexually 10 times a day by 10 strangers, right? You're isolated from family. You're isolated from anyone who loves you. Your entire world is dark. Fully. There's nothing that you're living for. Again, start learning all these things and realize I have to do something about this. But I need to do something unique, because you can write a check, and that's fine. Writing a check is fine. But that's not really going to make an impact. If I didn't know, how many other people did not know, right? And so how do I get this word out? Well, it's one thing to just send out a Facebook campaign of I'm raising a GoFundMe, or we're going to do a 5K or a bake sale or whatever it is. But my mind then went back to, brawl for a cause. The one thing I said I would never do, I have to do it. I have to do it. There's no other way. What other platform is going to be out there to where I can raise this much awareness, right? And so that's when I called you back and was like, Matt, I know we had this conversation less than whatever it was, 3 months ago, but I'm going to be in your next brawl class. And I don't know what that means, but help me do this. And that was our conversation. I had that conversation first with my wife, or with my girlfriend at the time, who was super supportive of the whole thing, which thank God, and she was phenomenal throughout the entire training.
Let me attest to how rare that is. There's a long list of girlfriends, wives, and mothers that do not like me or brawl for a cause. For Kate to be on board in your corner from the offset, that is big
all
time.
The difference.
She's a rock star.
Made all the difference. So that's when you and I talked. I got to know the program, got to kind of build out the game plan to train for this. Did the training, made the videos, posted this at, and this is the other thing. You're posting this at work. You're posting this at church. You're posting this
Put
with
yourself
family.
out there.
You were putting yourself out there.
So in that moment, were there naysayers? Were there people like, Sam, what are you doing?
Yes.
Because Kate was on board.
She was on board,
but let's go one circle out here, family, close friends. What were they saying?
Family was on board. Mom was nervous. She was like, I thought we were done with this after wrestling ended and jiu-jitsu ended and all that stuff. So she's like, you're 30. What are you doing? Or 29, whatever it was. What are you doing? Right? She was supportive, but definitely nervous. I'm again fortunate to have a great family. They were supportive. My friends were supportive. Certain questions like, do you have time for this? Was a big one. Do you have time to train for this? It's hard to pack gloves in a suitcase kind of deal. All these different things. So, and then certainly at work, I was supported by so many folks at work. But certainly folks had some questions. What are you doing? What's this about? How is this going to represent the firm and all this stuff? Have you done the background check on the charity and all these other things? So I would say I had a largely supportive group. Certain folks, no one said, Sam, you can't do this, but there was definitely levels of supportiveness throughout that. The biggest thing was once Kate said, I'm fully behind you, that's all I needed though. My family was supportive, and that was excellent also. But that was the one person I needed, and also I just needed to do it for myself, and she knew that. She knew I was serious. She knew that this was not about me. This was not about boxing. This was not about getting in shape. This was about people that are getting trafficked 10 times a day. So, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that why was intact. That why was strong enough. So all these objections, all these questions, all, when that self-doubt voice bubbles up, you just kind of want to let.
Yeah.
So we get closer to the event. You start training, you start fundraising. You're at the top of your class. No one was raising as much money or as much awareness. When you're in that position and you're excelling, are you comparing yourself to the other people in that brawl class, or are you settling in any way? Are you content? Or
no, for me, the only thing that this was about raising money and awareness for this cause. I wanted to learn from the others in the brawl class, certainly. I wanted to learn from them from a boxing standpoint and from a fundraising standpoint, but I wasn't doing this to beat them or doing this for. This was not about me. This was this was only about this cause. So whatever resource was going to help me raise more money for them and awareness, that's what I was interested in. And then also interested in helping back and saying, guys, if you're interested in learning I've had some success here. Let me share with you what I'm doing.
And how did you do that?
So, I would say a couple ways. I thought you did a great job of capturing my content and other folks' content that was doing a good job in putting that out. But then I wrote it down. And I said, here's exactly what I've done. Here's my story. Here are my templates. Here are the emails that I sent out to the charity, to my friends and family, to my coworkers. Here's everything that I've done. Feel free to make this your own. This has worked for me.
And specifically, how did you share your cause, your why, with other members of the brawl class and the larger community? The equivalent for you, the way you were introduced to it was that night of giving and then that subsequent tour.
Yeah.
How did you really make it real for others?
Yeah, so when we were training, we did a volunteer day down at City of Refuge. And so we had 20 brawlers and staff come down and train at City of Refuge because they have a gym there. And so we did this volunteer project. We built this little dog park, but we got to tour the facility and meet the people. And again, once you see this, you can't unsee it, and you're immediately interested, and you're immediately, your heart's broken for what this is, and you're also very thankful. You're very thankful that you are in a position to where you can be trained for someone else and give back, and you're not worried about where's my next meal, where am I staying tonight, am I safe, right? So it was this awesome kind of gratitude and giving back, and to be able to bring the other brawlers into that was amazing.
Well, and that was one of my favorite days in the history of us doing this event, because it opened up another face or facet of the brawl. Now these people that are fighting each other in 3 weeks are, one of them, the blue corner's holding a peg in the ground and red corner's hammering it in.
Yep.
They're working together.
Yes.
And just that moment, that visual of, hey, you watch Mayweather match up against whoever he's matched up against. They're talking shit about each other. They're getting in each other's face at a press conference.
Yeah.
And this was the antithesis of that.
Yes.
These are people that are working together for something much bigger than themselves, much more important than their ego or their paycheck. And it was all right there.
Yeah.
In this place that had changed your life,
Yeah.
had changed countless other lives of people that have actually gone through that program.
Yeah.
And at least for me, it reaffirmed, hey, this might have been a college hobby. This might be a passion project, but this is worth freaking doing.
Yes.
This
is worth doing.
Yeah, and that moment for me was really powerful, and you facilitated that. So I'm really grateful for that. And so that was right before that 2016 event. We moved from the Grand Hyatt over to right over Lenox Mall at the Westin. We had that ballroom there. Take me through that night for you. Were you in peak physical condition?
Yeah.
No injuries, no nothing. Were you just ready to do your thing, or was there some
I had
some other stuff?
I had a really good training camp. I went to all the workouts. I was training. I was very serious with my diet. I had worked with Christian Steele, who I think is at
Team Octopus.
Team Octopus. We did some one-on-one training. He was great guy to work with. Pushed me really hard. But it was, and I showed up. You're always going to have some injuries in training, but I showed up relatively 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I had started at a pretty lean 186, and I was planning on fighting at 185. But throughout the training, I'd gotten down to 177. I just could not keep. You're training this hard and you're eating right, and it wasn't a strict diet. It was don't eat fried foods, don't drink alcohol, don't eat sugar.
Yeah.
Those three things, along with training, you can't keep weight on. So I showed up in great shape. I showed up. The goal was. The goal wasn't, and this is I think the most important part of this entire experience, and it's a testament to where the brawl has come, because some of the recent trainings that we've done, most of the guys, and I would say if not all of the guys and gals, have this mentality of if it's about you and I have to win, if I have to win, if I'm doing this for me, or if my importance or my social status or whatever is tied to me winning this fight, you're going to put a mountain of pressure on yourself. And I'm not Sugar Ray, right? But I do know that when you're tight and you're stressed, you wear yourself out. It's hard to be fluid. It's hard to have good motion. It's hard to throw good punches. You're not. So that's a negative side effect. But what I realized was, and this was fortunately about 2 months before the fight, was I knew at the beginning this wasn't about me, but then you really get the realization of if someone's getting trafficked 10 times a day, I can take a punch in the face. In fact, I can take 100 punches in the face. In fact, I can get knocked out in front of my friends and family and be totally fine, because it is not about the outcome of this fight. It is about the fact that I went through this training, raised the awareness, and that you win just by stepping in. And you're, it's very, as an outsider, it's different to say, oh, I could go in there and I can box. But once you're signed up, once that date's on the calendar, once you're training, it's very different. It's very different. It's a very different level of a nervous energy that you've got to be able to harness and channel. I took that all off my shoulders when I literally just let go and said, this is not about me and the outcome doesn't matter. My goal was to go in there in great shape and fight hard for 3 rounds, and whatever, finished in the end. But I wanted to make sure that my preparation was good enough to where I had the stamina to go 3 rounds, and then the skill to protect myself and make it competitive. So that was my goal going in. So when I showed up in a tux. I showed up totally relaxed. I was in a tux hanging out before 3 hours before the fight. I was the last fight of the night. I didn't get out of my tux until 45 minutes before the fight. I mean, I was totally relaxed. I ended up seeing somebody that night that I hadn't seen in a while from one of the camps I was a counselor at. And she said, what are you doing here? I was like, oh, I'm about to fight. And she goes, no, you're not. What are you doing? You're not fighting.
You pull my leg.
And I said, no, I'm actually fighting. I'm just hanging out. And it was no stress. And it was an honor to do it. And it was a transformational thing to just realize that when it's not about you and it's for something else that's greater than you are, you don't have that pressure on yourself. So I was able to go into the fight relaxed, focused, relaxed, and and fight hard. So yeah.
Well, what a night it was. I mean, we 2016 had an awesome card. Like you said, your last fight of the night, which is the main event matchup against a really good dude, Brian Jackson, fighting in memory of his mother, rocking the pink trunks for breast cancer awareness, and you have a really successful outcome. So first round, you score a TKO, that killer left hook you have, which. So the brawl class this year is tasting a little bit when we're having our sparring days. Comes out to play. Yeah. And take me through that moment. So, you go in the first round, you get a TKO, and there's an awesome picture where you're just on fire.
Yeah.
I mean, right after it happens, just so much passion. Do you remember what you were thinking? What went through your head? Were there flags? Like what? What happened?
It was the so the fight didn't go the way that I expected. I expected this to go 3 rounds. I expected the first round to have, to be a lot of touch and go, figuring it out. I was fighting a guy who is a little bit taller, a little bit heavier. I figured we were going to have a little bit of a chess match. It was the opposite. We came out swinging, and we came out, and that was it. And it was a street fight, an organized street fight. So
sanctioned, insured,
refereed, judged, the whole thing.
But a little bit of a brawl.
Yes, certainly a brawl. So headgear on and everything. So, but when it was over, it was just the culmination. It was you kind of. You lose yourself in that moment. It's everything that you've worked for. And again, it wasn't that it wasn't so much that I won. It was more so like we did it. We did it. Like everybody here that's in this audience is coming to support me or another fighter that's here that's representing a great cause. It was the end of the night. It was, we did it, and I knew how hard I had trained. Every minute of my days leading up to those fights were measured, and I, you sacrifice a lot to get there. And it was this exciting moment of all this training paid off. What a cool way to end the night, and just this, and to see your friends and family there that are super excited for you. You're just feeding off their energy as well. So it was an awesome moment, and I loved it. And I'm glad we got that picture caught, because it would have been hard to remember the rest of that. It was that. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So incredible moment, culmination of this journey. You write the biggest check that any brawler's ever written to your cause. You have the goal of having someone represent City Refuge, and specifically House of Cherith, every year since, which has happened.
Yeah.
Take me through everything that's happened since your brawler's journey. What did you consider getting in the ring again?
No. I mean, it was well, maybe not as a boxer, I mean, as a sparring partner maybe, but I loved it. I enjoyed it. But what I realized was I can have more impact outside the ring. So, when I saw the model that you had built, I said, this is amazing. We got to do it at scale. In order to get to scale, I want to be a part of this to help get it there. So, leading up to that, as I was reflecting on this, after the fight, which was right around Thanksgiving, and you have your friends and family, and you're talking, and you're exchanging, and you realize this doesn't just affect the brawlers. This affects everybody around them. And so the ripple effect of this charity, of this organization, Brawl for a Cause, is huge. And so I wanted to be more of a part of it. So that's when I approached you and said, Matt, we can make this thing bigger. We can really get to the next level. We've got to make some upgrades and changes and things, but let's go big. You have a big mindset anyways. And so, given our complementary skill sets, we were able to take that and then obviously make a huge change.
I'd like to jump in there. So just to reinforce some of the wisdom, some of the truth that I think is so important for people to hear that you've touched on earlier. As this was getting off the ground, as we were doing those earlier events, it was a lot of me trying to do everything. And it was me thinking that I could do everything.
Yeah.
I can just, force of will this, spreadsheet into existence.
Yeah.
When it took a lot of maturation and meeting people like you. It's like, wow, there are people put on this planet that are incredible at the things I suck at.
Mm-hmm.
And owning that and being okay in that weakness and that vulnerability makes the collective, the organization, so much stronger.
Absolutely.
And you taught me that in a big way of just like, okay, I don't have to be everything to all people.
Right.
And I don't have to do everything for this organization. I can be open to letting other people help.
Yeah.
And I've done it in small ways, in a few events leading up to it, but in a big way. After that 2016 event when we were like, hey, do you have a board? I was like, no. Why do I need a board? It's like, well, I think we should make a board, and I'd like to be on it. I'd like to help you, and I'd like to help you. I was like, okay, yeah, we can do that. And 2016 is when we got a nonprofit certification. So we
501c3,
became a 501c3, which is really when that was a game changer, because now we could issue tax receipts to all the people supporting the brawlers. We could assert our own mission of training, equipping, and inspiring everyday people to fight for what they believe in. And like you said, that ripple effect of not just the people in the ring, but all the people that get inspired by watching someone in the ring do this thing for something bigger than themselves. So really, that was in my mind, even if a spreadsheet or a P&L didn't show it, that was the inflection point moment.
And there's one last thing on that. It's the brawlers. It's the people that are surrounded by the brawlers and watching the brawl as the example. But I know this, having met some of those women that were trafficked, when they know that there's someone fighting for them, when in their lives very few people, if any, have ever fought for them.
Or know they exist.
Or know that they even exist. That is a massively powerful force. So it's those three facets and maybe more. But certainly when somebody is taking up your side and physically fighting for you, that is an empowering, validating moment that I was able to see firsthand, which was why this has been a very powerful, life-changing experience for me. So
awesome.
Sorry to cut off there.
No, we're in the phase of the brawl where it's time to share this with more people, and so you sharing your testimony, your story, is a piece of that. So, 2016 happens, and we start making these plans. We take basically a whole year, and plan out the next chunk of the organization. I mean, the next chapter, and so take me through what we decided to do and how we arrived there.
So we said let's bite off more than we can chew, or let's at least figure this thing out. Why not go big? Mercedes-Benz was launched in 2017, the stadium here in Atlanta, and we said, wouldn't it be great if we had our event on the field? We had just been in a ballroom in Buckhead of a hotel, and we said, why not do it on the field of Mercedes-Benz Stadium?
Well, it's just brainstorming, right? We were like throwing anything up on the board. Like, what's the craziest thing we could do? Where's the most outrageous place we could possibly do? Just as like a reference point.
Sure.
I don't think we were even like serious about it at that point.
No.
It was like, what if this happened?
Yes. It was a dream joke thing that we just had put out there. And then a series of events happened where I had gotten involved with a group of guys that had built some relationships with the stadium and had made some contacts over there. Well,
and let's name them. I mean, Rise Ventures and M. Cole was really what changed my mind about all of this. He and his story. He's a brawler at heart. He hasn't been in the ring yet. We'll get him in there, though.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, it was the day after my birthday. We sat down for like a 6-hour whiteboard.
Yeah. And
I was walking out of there. It was like I was changed. It was maybe similar to your City of Refuge moment where I was like, I can't unknow. So like someone like this out there exists. This is why we're doing this. Yes. We need a platform that justifies people like this fighting for what they believe in. That's worthy of propping up these people that others need to see and need to be inspired by.
Yes.
And so M. Cole puts together this fund, Rise Ventures.
Yeah. Me and a couple other folks invest in this fund, and we were able to access and rent purchase the largest field level suite at Mercedes-Benz. And through that process, we're meeting all the staff there. And so as one of the investors and probably a little bit more active, I'm helping him and learning, and he's teaching, and we're going back and forth. And we realize that we can actually get the stadium, we can get the field, not the full stadium, but we had it. We can get the field, we can get access to the field. Now it's going to be really difficult. It's going to be really expensive. It's going to be a huge bet, but
way more difficult than we thought.
But it's possible.
Yeah.
But it's possible, and that's when you, myself, a couple others, said, let's go for it. And we went for it, and we got it.
So, yeah, I'll go in a little bit more detail on what getting it really meant. So another board member, another big big mentor in my life, big help for the brawl, Rodney Cook, took a trip with him out west. And we went to this other fundraising event. He was introducing me around to people that could really help the brawl in the future. I had this incredible night, really fun, swing dancing, bonfire on the beach after, all this stuff. I get back to the hotel room that I'm sharing with Rodney, and I have a notification on my phone from Bank of America saying overdraft protection applied. I'm like, uh-oh.
Oh boy.
I know what that means. And I look, and it was Netflix and Spotify hitting me at the same time. So, I was getting dinged for like $20 or something. And I didn't have enough in my checking to pay. And I was like, okay, I'll transfer from my savings or whatever. So I open up my bank app and I see zero in my savings. And I see $19.27 in my checking. And I'm like, man, I can't pay for Netflix and Spotify right now. I'm in a little bit of trouble here. And I was still in my tux. I'd just been surrounded by literally billionaires.
Yes, literally.
And I was like, what is happening in my life right now? It was this pivotal moment of like, what is going on? And I get back, a day or two later, and I go to you. I don't think I tell you about the overdraft or anything at that point. And we had to put a down payment to reserve our date in the stadium. And the down payment was $33,500. And looking at my personal bank account, the brawl bank account, we were basically breaking even every year, or banking just enough to have like a budget for the next hotel ballroom or whatever. And I was like, there's no freaking way that we can do this. Like, I'm going to have to get my fundraising pants on and not just go out and fundraise for the brawl, but I need to figure out how to, like, pay rent, cancel Netflix, do all the things to just, like, make sure I can feed myself. Yeah. And so I'm having a lot of self-doubt with this stadium. It's a huge risk. It's this massive mountain in front of me.
It's the hottest stadium in the country, maybe the world at that time.
It had just opened. At that stage, I think the Falcons had only played one game. It was like the season opener. Yeah. It was like September in 2017. So, I'm looking at this. I'm thinking about this, and maybe you can sense my fear. And I think you knew how much it would mean to the brawl, how much it would take us to another level, and really. Fulfill that vision that had become a shared vision of how many people can we share this with? Yes. How big can we grow this? Yes. And so, I know you're the type of person to not say this yourself, but you pulled out your checkbook. Yeah. You wrote that $33,500 check to lock in the date. And from that moment forward, we were partners in that event. We were in the trenches of like, if this blows up, we're both hurting, like in very, different magnitudes and ways and all those things, but like we're all the way in this.
We're in.
And that would be tested.
Yeah, and that would be tested. And again, without the support of my wife of saying, hey, we can do something special here. We've got the means to make a meaningful difference in the brawl, but not just the brawl, through the brawl, all these other folks. Mm-hmm. Let's do this. And she was very supportive of that, and owe that to her as well. So yeah, we were happy to be able to be in a position to help for sure.
So we had about a little over 4 months to make some magic happen.
Yeah.
And I've never been more motivated. I've never worked harder. And with as many things as you have going on, we haven't even touched on a lot of the other projects you have going on, but you're involved in a lot of stuff. To be putting that amount of time into a nonprofit that not only can't pay you, but that you've written a massive check for was above the call duty. Yeah. And so we were challenged in a lot of ways leading up to that event. Is there one in particular that comes to mind?
Yeah, we were going down this road. They already had a lot of turnover internally at Mercedes. It was a new stadium. They were still figuring it out. We were figuring it out. And there was a technicality in the contract. I think we both got a crash course in contract law throughout this entire process, which is not my background. Or yours. And well, actually, it is kind of yours. I guess you did go to law school for a year.
I had a semester and a half.
There you go, semester and a half. There we go. So we're getting this crash course in contract business law, and the blessing and the curse of dealing with Mercedes was it was this amazing transformational thing for the brawl, but we were so small potatoes to them that financially that it was very difficult to be prioritized. So we kept getting prioritized down. And so the time crunch continued to happen. There was some back and forth, and 3 weeks before the fight was supposed to happen, and we had sold tickets, and we had brawlers, and we had charities, and we had been in the newspaper, and we had the whole thing.
Just broken the $100,000 raise milestone, to where literally for 7 years, six years at that point that we had been doing these events, those 6 years, 9 events, had raised just over $100,000. And in one event,
yes,
we had eclipsed that.
Yes.
So we had doubled our impact. And like 2 days after that, we go into a meeting.
2 days after that, we go into a meeting to sort some things out, which we felt that we needed clarification on. And we met with a gentleman representative at Mercedes at a high level. And he said, you guys seem like nice guys, and this seems like a good cause. But I'm canceling the event. It's not going to happen. And we'll just, we'll give you, your deposit back.
Like he was doing us a favor. We aren't contractually obligated to give you back your deposit.
Sure.
But we'll give it back, cancel the event. Good luck.
Here's a lollipop. Yeah. And it was a crazy moment. It was a crazy moment. You and I sat back and we went back in my car. And it's one of those things where I've been a part of some crazy deals. We've both done some crazy things, or even maybe not, alternative things like a 24-hour race and other kind of extreme sports. But this was different. This was you try to draw on those past experiences, and this is where I think partnership is so key. Whether it's my wife and I in marriage, friendship, business, all this was. There's a time where you need to step up and be strong and say, we're going to do this. We've got to get this done. We've come too far. We owe this to each other. Yeah. We are in this boat together. And if it was just me, I might let it go. If it was just you, you might let it go. But we owe this to each other and all these other people. So you and I sat in my car and we said, we're going to figure this thing out. There's not another venue. We can't pivot. There's 3 weeks out. We've got to actually get this thing back going. And we spent the weekend at your apartment going through every single correspondence that we had ever made with that organization.
Text, emails, meeting notes, meeting recordings, everything.
And we literally filed it, organized it, made our case, presented our case back to their representative, and over the course of it wasn't overnight. I mean, it was... We
had like 48 hours of sweat. At least for me, all sweat.
Yeah. Well, and there's reputational risk.
Yeah.
You get an upstart that says, we're going to do this at Mercedes, and then 3 weeks later says, no thanks, sorry, we're not.
We would have been done.
You're done. You're done. You're done. Even if it's a great cause, you're done. And so we were able to get it back online and save the brawl and get it back going.
And I'll never forget that call. Right after that call, it's just like, we got off the phone, and I don't think I've ever yelled louder. I was beating my chest, and it wasn't a win. No. It was just we're not dead yet. And there were still more battles to fight. But
absolutely,
that one we weathered the storm.
That was a big one. And what's so, I think, special and important about looking back on that moment now is those are the kind of deposits in the bank that as we face future adversity, which we will, we can draw back on that and say, we have been through the fire. This is nothing. Remember when. We can do this. So those things make you battle tested. Those things harden the armor. Those things, that's how you can watch that CEO who's on stage presenting or having a difficult conversation with the board and be like, how is he so calm and collected and focused? Because he's been through the fire. Because this is not his first time. Because experience and deposits like that matter. This is certainly one of those milestones for the brawl, for you, for me, for us. I mean, this is a huge moment.
Mental rep, mental callousing, just being more calm and comfortable. It's a perfect parallel to the ring too.
Yes.
You get in there first time sparring. You're tense. You're scared. You're throwing wild punches. You think it's fight. It's life or death. Your 100th time in the ring.
Yeah.
Cool, calm, collect. You throw that jab out. You feel out your opponent. You're using your energy much more efficiently. It's like that CEO on TV where you're just like, how's he do that?
That's right.
And that same mentality can be applied to all walks of life, whether it's a world's toughest mutter, whether it's the top of the finance world, whether it's saving the event in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That truth of life applies to all walks of life.
That's right.
And if people get one thing out of this talk, I hope it's that.
Yes.
I hope it's put yourself in difficult situations, challenge yourself, get outside of that comfort zone, because the more you do that, the more you get used to that, the more you grow.
Absolutely.
So we have the Brawl of the Bends.
Have the Brawl of the Bends.
And that was the best day of my life. Yeah. Definitively.
Yeah.
We can go into the details of that, but Google the recap video.
1,600 people on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, raising $220,000 for 28 charities.
That's right.
It does not get better than that. It does not get better than that. And to realize that vision, and to see those chairs set up on the field before the event started, and to see the halo board lit up, and to I had to
know what it took just to have those light bulbs come on.
To know what it took, and to literally, and the other thing, beyond it being a financial risk, we had done the financial modeling based on all assumptions, very few hard inputs as far as we knew what our fixed costs were, but it was the whole thing was on faith. So to see all of that play out, to see the boxers come and play out, and for that everything to happen. Silento and all these other things that we said, wouldn't this be cool if, and it happened, and to realize that, to do that short interview in the ring with you, looking out and saying, look what this thing has become, and where it's going,
and look what we've done.
Look what we've done. So that was amazing. That was an incredible moment,
and it was the start of what I believe is the real Brawl for a Cause.
Absolutely.
Is where we're going. That is our model. And so this year, what excites me, what sparks me, what gets me up every morning, where I can't wait to live my life, do the work that we're doing, is we're building on that Brawl of the Bends. It's a starting point. It's the gun is just fired off. We're just starting this race.
Yes.
So April 6th. We had this new class of brawlers, and more they're resembling the Sam Konigsberg from 2016 or the Eddie Capel from 2018. This new class of people that are realizing the opportunity that they have to navigate this brawler's journey and do it for their cause.
Yes.
Taking it more and more seriously. And really what we're doing is putting these titans, these giants in the ring and saying, look at them. You can do that too. Everyone can get in the ring to brawl for a cause once. No one belongs in there.
Yes.
No one is a boxer.
Nobody's comfortable. Event. Nobody's without nerves or
everyone is scared.
Yes.
And hopefully everyone is doing it for the right reson, because if you aren't, that's gonna come up. Yeah. So, on April 6th, I can't wait for us to, fortunately, or hopefully we don't have any of the same kind of moments like that Brawl of the Bends, and we can focus more on that programming and enhancing that guest experience that we're taking so seriously.
This will be by far the best brawl we've ever put on. I think from a brawler standpoint, that the character and the heart of these guys and gals that are doing this, the involvement that they've had both with their charity and for training, outreach. The programming is going to be the best that we've ever had. The guest list is going to be the best we've ever had. The size and impact of the brawl is going to be the best that we've ever had. This is going to be by far the best brawl that we've ever had.
Time to break some records.
Yeah.
we're getting, I mean, the mission here, and this is something we haven't even said yet, which we totally should.
Yes.
We're going to donate $1 billion.
Yeah.
And we're just at the very beginning of that long marathon.
Yes.
We haven't hit our $1 million milestone yet.
Right.
And this could be the event that pushes us over that edge. So, I mean, my ask, and I think this is a good way to wrap here, is come be a part of this.
Yeah.
Like Sam has done, like so many others. I mean, we've had over 300 people fighting these events. And since it's been a nonprofit and been this model, we've had a couple dozen people really help take it to the next level.
Yeah.
And take it seriously and be an advocate for their cause in the ring. And just come see what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, come be a part of it on April 6th. Check out the content that we're putting out between now and then.
Where else can you literally have a great time for a great cause with a bunch of other great people in the city? And I love the fact that we also invite the charities there too.
Yep.
So it's not just the people in the ring talking about their cause. The causes are there. You're meeting these causes. They're getting this time and exposure. So it's a full win-win-win for the city, for the causes, for the people that are being fought for the whole thing. So, get your black tie tux out, get your long dresses out, have a great time, block off that night. There's no reason why you should not be there.
And if you want to learn more about why someone is crazy enough to get in the ring for that thing, you get to go talk to the source of that crazy.
That's right.
Because there's a certain kind of crazy that wants the world to be a better place and is willing to sacrifice a high-paying job or a couple painful minutes in the ring in order to make that happen. So, come on out. Is there anything else you want to say? You've shared a big chunk of your story. You've talked about your brawl experience. You've shared some incredible truth and wisdom that I know our brawlers are going to benefit from. I hope a lot of other listeners that are maybe considering this or at least considering coming to an event, I hope take to heart. Is there any final words?
Yeah, I would just say thank you. This has been, this was your brainchild from the beginning. You've had a lot of help and support along the way, but this was something that you birthed and you've brought a lot of people into, and this is going to make already has made a big impact, but it's going to continue to do so. So, that shouldn't go without saying, right? So thank you for doing this. Thank you for creating this platform. And I'm excited to brawl to $1 billion. I think that's going to be a big, big freaking deal. So we'll pop champagne when that happens and invite
a lot of times in between.
That's right. So, brawlforacause.com. I think that's it. And buy your tickets, volunteer, sign up for next year's brawl, all that stuff.
Well, the gratitude is a two-way street here. Could not be doing things at Brawl at the Benz or at the Georgia World Congress Center without you and people like you that are helping out. So stepping up when we needed a deposit check, being in the trenches in those late nights, all-nighters, trying to save the event, all that stuff is things that I couldn't imagine anyone else believing in this enough to get in the trench with me and dig and do. So thank you so much.
You got it.
Thanks for sharing your story.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Where can people find you? Like if they want to follow along on your journey, doing the things that you do, social media, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So on Instagram at SAMKO. SAMKO is Sam Konigsberg, SAMKO, and then WIN, WIN. If you want to hear my story, shoot me an email. Sam@brawlforacause.com, and would love to tell it, would love to share it, and get involved. In any way that we can help. But we're going to be doing good for a long time, and I'm here to serve. I want to serve this city. I want to serve the charities. I want to serve the brawl, and so it's going to be a fun journey. It already has been. It's going to continue to be. So
thank you, Sam.
Thanks, man.
So excited.
Hey, man. Here we go.
Wrap.
All righty.
Boom.
Sir.